We are debating what the Cardinals should do with the 16th overall pick. Third year for Monty overseeing the draft, the lowest down the board that he has picked, 2 top 5 picks his last 2 drafts. This right in the middle of the first round, and it creates a new set of challenges. You're at the mercy more of other teams and what they choose to do. You're more at the mercy of other teams causing chaos around you, trading up. When you are picking inside the top 4 or 5, not a whole lot of wiggle room for your draft plans to get messed up. When you're picking 16th, a couple trade-ups, and all of a sudden the board looks way different than you thought it was going to look going into draft night. Creates a whole bunch of challenges. So do they stay and make a selection with the 16th overall pick? Is there any appetite to move up to make sure they absolutely land their player? Do they trade the pick away to get a current NFL player? Or do they trade back? All of those options available to them. Trading up, staying in 16, letting the board fall to them, just picking a player, trading it in a deal for Myles Garrett, trading it in a deal for Trey Hendrickson if those players were ever to become available, or trading back. That's what they can do with the 16th overall pick. So what would it look like if they chose to trade back? We've debated the merits of trading back. But what could they get for trading back? Well, I spent this morning doing the research, opening up the NFL draft history books. And I've got 2 examples of recent memory that I want to share to you. I want to share to you a trade from last year's draft that wasn't with the 16th overall pick, but a pick in a similar range. And then I will tell you the last time the 16th overall pick was traded on draft night, what the teams got back. Last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars moved down from 17. The Vikings came all the way up from 22. That's how the Jags got Brian Thomas Jr. They got him at 22. They moved down from 17. Here's what the Vikings traded. They traded pick 23. I think I said 22. They traded pick 23, a 5th-round pick in last year's draft, and then 2 future picks in this year's class in 2025. So last year, on draft night, 2024 NFL draft, a pick swap. The Vikings come up from 23 to 17. The Vikings traded pick 23, a 5th-round pick, and 2 future selections for pick 17. That's what the Jags got in a trade to move down 7 spots. So not the 16th overall pick, but I felt like it was close enough. 1 spot down the board, and it was a recent selection, right? This is from last year's class. That allowed Minnesota to come up to get Dallas Turner, and the Jags, with the 23rd pick, took Brian Thomas Jr. So that was a trade between 17 and 23. On draft night, where Jacksonville traded the 17th overall pick for 23 and 167, a 1st and a 5th, and then got a 3rd and a 4th-round pick in this year's class. So the last time that the 16th overall pick was moved, you have to go all the way back to the 2018 draft. The Ravens and Bills did some business. The Bills came up from 22. So again, moving up 6 spots like the last example. They traded 22 and a 3rd-round pick for 16 and a 5th-round pick. So a little bit of different value. 22 and a 3rd for 16 and a 5th. So you swap firsts, 16 for 22, and the cost of coming up 6 spots was we're going to trade a 5th-round pick for a 3rd-round pick. That was the cost of doing business in 2018 to come up to the 16th overall pick. Last year, the price to move up 6 spots from 23 to 17 was a 5th-round pick in the 24 class and then 2 future picks. So last year, the Jags prioritized getting future draft capital rather than moving down and gaining additional capital in the early stages of the 24 draft. They only got a 5th in the 24 draft. They added 2 future picks. They prioritized future value. Back in 2018, when the Ravens moved down from 16, they wanted a 3rd, and they moved a 5th in order to do so. They prioritized having a top pick in that year's draft. So that's what it looks like, at least in recent memory, middle of the draft, what you're looking for. Are you prioritizing getting future draft picks? Are you prioritizing getting 2026 draft capital? Or do you want to have more swings at the bat in the 2025 class? I know where I stand on this. If you're going to trade down, the cost for me is I want more swings this year. And that's not to say that I am in love with the 2025 draft class altogether. I can't have future draft picks right now. I need proven players on the field, and I'm already dealing from a position of weakness. I've made 21 draft selections over the last 2 drafts. Some quick arithmetic tells me that's an average of 10.5 picks per year for Monty. He's got, 5 or 6 this year? He made 12 last year, 9 his first year. It's going to get cut nearly in half this season. I need more swings at the bat this year. I need more swings at the bat to get impactful players this year. I'll take some second-round picks. I'll take some third-round picks. I'll take more swings in the early stages of this draft so I can get more players, so I can fill more needs of my team. Because if things don't go well in 2025, does it matter if I have those 2026 picks? I've said this before. I like the wheeling and dealing. I like constantly setting yourself up in the future to have some flexibility. I love it. But at some point, you have to cash in on that flexibility. At some point, you can't be Oklahoma City, you can't be Utah in the NBA and just stockpile all these draft picks. There comes a time where you have to take those draft picks and do something with them. And if this season for the Cardinals sees them miss the playoffs, does it matter that they have all those picks? There might be some changes in that building. So if I'm trading down, and right now my ideal scenario with the 16th overall pick, I'm taking that pick and I'm trying to get Trey Hendrickson out of Cincinnati. I'm taking that first round pick as part of a package to get Myles Garrett. That's what I'm doing with the 16th overall pick. Staying, trading up, moving down, whatever I do, I'm not going to be able to get a better player than getting Trey Hendrickson out of Cincinnati if they can't get a long-term deal done. Getting Myles Garrett out of Cleveland because he doesn't want to be there anymore. I'm not going to do any better than those 2 guys with the 16th overall pick. I might be able to draft a future Trey Hendrickson, a future Myles Garrett. I might be able to do that. Or I could get the sure thing. I could get a guy who finished second in the Defensive Player of the Year award last year. I can get a guy who had 35 sacks over the last 2 seasons, led the league in sacks last year with 17.5. I can just go get that guy if Cincinnati can't come to a deal with him. That's what I would rather do with the 16th overall pick. But it takes 2 to tango. Cincinnati has to have an appetite for that. Cleveland has to have an appetite for that. You have to meet up with the values. I get all of that. When you pick 16th, you just have to pick a player. You hand a card in to the commissioner, and you make a selection. So my ideal scenario is taking that pick and doing what you did a couple of years ago. I know it was a different regime, but doing what you did a couple of years ago and trading your pick to get Hollywood Brown. That's what I would do with the 16th overall pick. My number 2 option would be trade down and get more draft picks in this year's class. Don't get future value. Get more swings at the bat this year in this class. Give yourself more opportunities to build out this roster this year. My third option would be trading up. I know you're dealing with limited draft capital, but if you love a guy, go get him. And then out of all of those options, the thing I'd like to see this team do the least would be to stay in the 16th spot and just make a pick. I think there are way better uses of that pick than to just stay and let the board come to them and just pick somebody on draft night. Think of the value that you could get. The Vikings gave up a future third-round pick in this year's class to move up. In 2018, the Ravens moved down 6 spots, still was able to make a pick in the first round, but also added a third-round pick. They turned a 5th into a 3rd without really doing a whole lot. So still got an impactful player in the 2018 draft. And also picked up a third-round pick. I'm going to do the thing here where in real time I try to figure out who they actually took in that class because all I was looking at picks that were swapped. I didn't see how it ended up. So this will be a fun little exercise because off the top of my head, I can't remember what they did with that pick at 22. But Buffalo came up to get Tremaine Edmonds. And then Baltimore traded down again to let Tennessee come up, and they took Hayden Hurst with pick number 25. So they moved down to 22 and then moved down again to 25 and got Hayden Hurst, who was pretty good for them. And that was the year they traded back in and got Lamar with 32. And my guess is they used some of those picks that they ended up getting in that deal, probably helped them feel more comfortable doing that. So you know what? I think they're pretty happy with how that worked out in 2018. The Cardinals can do something similar.